U.S. President Barack Obama is making it clear how he feels about net neutrality. In a video posted online today, he asked federal regulators to implement the strongest possible rules to ensure the internet remains free and open.
There are no gatekeepers deciding which sites you get to access. There are no toll roads on the information superhighway. This set of principles, the idea of net neutrality, has unleashed the power of the internet and given innovators the chance to thrive. Abandoning these principles would threaten to end the internet as we know it.
To ensure those principles are upheld, Obama wants the Federal Communications Commission to put these rules in place. No blocking. If someone wants to access a website or service and the content is legal, internet service providers shouldn't be able to block it. No throttling. ISPs shouldn't be able to intentionally slow down or speed up content based on the type of service. And finally, no paid prioritization. Services shouldn't be stuck in a slow lane because they don't pay those providers a special fee. Time now for our bi-weekly tech panel, The Digital Divide. Leonard Brody is a tech entrepreneur and venture capitalist. Farhan Thawer is Vice President of Engineering at Pivotal. So Farhan, let's start with you. Okay. Is anything that Obama is suggesting particularly controversial?
No, I mean, you can see that we're moving to an area where most folks are now actually starting to agree. So, this is a reversal for him to come in and say that net neutrality is something that they want to support. And I think that you'll see the majority of internet users applaud and look to Canada to see what we're going to do.
And what about you, Leonard? What was your reaction to hearing everything that Obama said?
Well, I don't think it's controversial. I think that Obama had actually, at the beginning, supported net neutrality from the day he ran his campaign. So I think he's upholding the promise he delivered to. I think he's trying to deliver a roadmap to the FCC, which he has no control over, obviously, but trying to influence on behalf of the population. So good for him for doing it.
Yes, but I mean, it's difficult to, I guess the part that's most difficult is this business about the throttling and so forth. That's where the cable companies are going to be getting quite agitated with all of this. And I mean, I don't hear anyone saying I'm not going to let people go to a website or whatever. So that sort of business, okay, that's fine. Everyone wants the internet to be free in that sense. But, for these companies who are wanting to make sure their subscribers get their best possible service, etc., I mean, there is going to be some reaction on that front.
Right, and we know the reason that happens is because the current way that it works is that we're actually already seeing oversubscription, right? So you go to a provider, a bunch of consumers come and they oversubscribe the service, and they want to actually throttle the traffic based on the type of traffic. So peer-to-peer sharing, potentially movie streaming. They want to move those to the lower priority so everyone else can get great access. So I agree, there's going to be an uproar.
What do you see, Leonard?
I think, honestly, the way to frame this debate is in effect, is the internet an essential service like electricity? Think of it like an electricity asset, or is it like a cable asset, which is a delivery of content? And I think the metaphors get mixed a little too often in the debate, and the reality is you kind of have to pick one. You have to decide, when the electricity company comes to my house, they come in, they deliver the service, I pay for what I use, but they don't tell me what I can use it for and what I can't. Whereas the cable companies often do. You have services that are blocked or controlled, and the issue comes, the electricity services don't sell me services, the cable companies do. And that's the real fundamental issue. Is it a vital service? And do the people selling me that service at the end have their own competing product, which they could be anti-competitive with?
Well, and this is why I guess I would ask the question of, do we think this is really just rather a craven political move on the part of the president, in the sense that, I mean, this is what he's suggesting by saying this is how we should change the laws. He's saying internet service has entered that realm. And I mean, I watched his whole video. He does say, like, American people need this service, right? Really? Do American people really need the internet? I mean, yes, of course, everybody's using it like crazy, but it is not like water or heat or things that are essentials of life. But really? Tell me about that.
I think it's fundamentally critical. I think that this is the most important platform in the history of humanity. I think you're in an area where you're going to see healthcare delivered over the web. You're going to see education predominantly move to the web. So this is going to be a fundamental platform that, giving or turning over any ability to pay for fast lanes and slow lanes will be critically wrong in innovation, and it incentivizes the ISPs to be lazy, and it incentivizes them to not be creative once they can control that traffic. I think this is the platform we are going to live on, work on, breathe on. And although I do love the reference to the information superhighway by President Obama, which is a great 90s throwback, but I think this is completely a debate about fundamental, vital human supply and services.
Yeah, I like the term data discrimination. So they really try to get to you and say, you know what, it is an essential service. It is something that we're at the beginning of. We're not at the end of the internet age, we're at the beginning. And I agree with Leonard in that you're going to see many more things come across the internet. And the only way that that can happen is this platform has to be set today for the future.
But you have to, I like all your points, Leonard, about, that it is essential, because of course the internet has huge educational value as well. There's lots of reasons why you should say everybody should have access to it. But you've got to say, politically, nobody is ever going to lose any points for going against cable companies, right?
Right? But it's not about access, it's about data discrimination. The idea that my data is more important than your data. What you're doing on the internet is more important than what Leonard's doing on the internet. That's the issue.
So
let's frame it another
though?
way.
Well, okay, go ahead.
The other way is if you're on a table having open heart surgery where data is being provided to that surgeon, or there's robotic equipment being used in your body delivered over the web, which is very realistic over the next 10 to 15 years. In fact, a lot of it's happening now. You're not going to want to know that a Netflix customer is paying more for that access than your hospital is.
Well, how would that ever happen? I mean,
it's happening now.
Hospitals are always going to have the primo access.
But only if they
Not
pay.
necessarily.
Only if they pay.
Correct.
So today you're seeing that where Netflix is making these side deals to allow folks to actually to say, hey, you know what, Comcast, we're actually going to have a deal with you where our traffic gets prioritized.
But I mean, in the real world, I cannot imagine any cable company would ever think there was a good decision to be giving slower service to a hospital.
Well, that's not necessarily the issue, right? The issue is what happens when that cable company has investments in particular healthcare providers that they favor or don't. The issue again goes back to, is this a fundamental platform, or is it just an extension of broadcast and radio and television? Is it a content provision, or is it vital services?
Okay, but now what will happen? Because another thing that the president pointed out in his video address today is that it's not his decision, right? The FCC is an independent body, and he is giving his full recommendation that this is what should happen. Will it happen? What do you think, Farhan?
Well, I think that, we're going to see the FCC make a call here, and I think whatever gets set here will be what gets set in Canada and elsewhere. I think it's probably in the FCC's interest to not have another uprising of the folks that we saw, maybe 6 or 12 months ago around net neutrality.
And what do you think on that subject, Leonard?
I think the FCC is going to have a complicated decision on their hands because there is a business case to be said that when there's incredible stress on a network and pressure and one person or one company is using more of it than others, that there is a business case to be charging people for that usage. That argument, though, is only true when the provision of those services are geared towards particular types of things. But when that network provides vital human services across all genres and all lifelines, including to the developing world, not just ourselves, it changes. So I think they would do themselves a disservice, and there will be a massive uproar if they try to throttle or digitally discriminate, as Farhan laid out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're definitely going to hear a lot more about this. I did see someone was already describing this as being Obamacare for the internet. So, in other words, trying to paint it with the same sort of brush of this is not going to be a winner.
Right.
But thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Interesting
Thank you.
perspective.